former President Trump won a major victory in his battle with the Justice Department on Monday. This pertains to the FBI raid on his home. You may recall in early August.
I recall.
Do you?
I recall.
It was kind of a big day. Dragged him back into the headlines, right?
Yeah, August 6th. Was it August 6th?
It was August 8th.
August 8th. I remember where I was on August 8th.
It was the 8th Lionsgate portal, and boy, was it. Okay. The president's legal team was seeking a special investigator, you may remember, to act as a neutral party between the Justice Department and the president. So what he wanted was for a third party, a neutral party, to review the documents before the Justice Department can. And this request was granted by a judge in Florida. Now, last week, we went over the Justice Department's opposition to this idea. They released a 26-page brief saying, a motion saying, do not give him a special counsel. He should not get this, right? We gave him plenty of chances to give us these documents. And they further argued that anything they kind of scooped up in the meantime was relevant. So when we went and scooped off stuff on the desk and, inside of there was classified documents, that's relevant because it showed the sort of bric-a-brac that he had kept around classified documents,
like
right?
We went into Barron's bedroom, which we learned later, right? We just learned this week that he tweeted this. He went into Barron's bedroom, and rifled through his stuff. It's like, so I guess if there's anything in there, like Barron's homework, maybe in his grammar homework, his mathematics homework, we just took it all.
Larry?
Yeah.
What was his name?
This, it brings to mind the story that is in the book of, what's the guy who was a former prosecutor? We both read his book.
Preet Bharara?
Preet Bharara wrote a book about how he was running one branch of the Justice Department in New York, and there was a bomb had gone off in Spain, right? And they thought that it may be connected to this guy who was in Oregon. And so he was fighting with the for jurisdiction because he was in New York and the prosecutors in Oregon really wanted this case because they thought it would be so high profile. So they raided this guy's home and they found some communications in Spanish, only to find out it actually was their teenage son's Spanish homework. The guy was absolutely not connected at all to this Spanish bomb or the bombing or anything or the terror, nothing, right? Nothing. I think it was a train or something like that.
Yeah.
So all this to say, things that get swept up absolutely, right, need a bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Fine-tooth comb, right? Mm-hmm. So that's true for this guy whose kid just happened to be doing Spanish homework.
Right.
Same can be said for President Trump, right? So constitutional attorney Mark Smith said that the Department of Justice was sloppy in this case, and that is reflected on the court order by the judge. We're going to see whether or not we agree with him. Listen to what he has to say.
This is a huge victory for President Trump because the Department of Justice said they did not want a special master appointed because it was not needed. And why wasn't it needed, according to the Department of Justice? It's because the Department of Justice could be trusted to, filter through the relevant information. Anything that should not be turned over to the investigative team would be set aside. But here you have an independent federal judge saying, I hear what you're saying, Department of Justice, but I'm not going to agree with you here. We need an independent third party that has no connection to the Department of Justice to make this determination. The other interesting thing, if you look at the court order, is apparently some of the documents that were supposed to have been filtered out already were exposed improperly to the investigative team. And the judge says, in light of that, I simply cannot trust the Department of Justice to do the job itself, and we need an independent person in here. So again, it is a blow to the Department of Justice. As to how long it will be a blow to the DOJ's and their investigation, hard to say, but for the moment, it's a win for Donald Trump.
MB from MB in our chat says, teacher, Barron, where's your homework? Barron, the FBI took it. That is a much better than the dog ate my homework
What
excuse.
are you going to say to that?
The FBI took my homework.
Didn't you read the news?
It reminds me so much of Burn After Reading. You ever see that?
No, I've always wanted to see that. No,
the Brad Pitt movie?
Yeah, I've always wanted to see that. I love Coen Brothers.
It's so good, but there's a very similar kind of plot line to that where it's just I don't want to give away too much, but it's an FBI agent that writes a nonfiction sort of novel kind of thing, if I'm remembering it correctly. And somebody thinks it's a top secret document, and so they're trying to sell it to the Russians and stuff like that. It's just really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, and it's just somebody's homework. It's really nothing else than that.
Well, the opinion, I think, is worth thinking about for a second, because the Justice Department was arguing that a couple of things that they really didn't want. They didn't think that they needed a special master to parse out these documents, right? For a couple of reasons. One, they thought anything that was classified attorney-client privilege, we took care of that. Don't worry about it. We took it out. We had filters who looked at it, and then we didn't look at it. So, okay, that is asking us to put a lot of trust in them that they did this properly, right? Because there are obviously rules that they are bound by in their, by the Bar Association, by laws, right? So, but do we trust them given that they are... okay, that is a big question. That's a big if, right? They also did not want him to be able to argue anything about executive privilege. This means that Trump could claim that he had any presidential authority to shield certain conversations with his aides. So because it specifically was mentioned that they took memos, communications, right? And so if he's saying, hey, I had executive privilege to talk to my staff, and some of these things are mine, and they're saying, no, you were talking about classified information, it's not yours, it's property of the government. Well, this conceivably could take out even more. They had already admitted to having over 500 pages of attorney-client privilege documents. So now, most likely, some third party investigator is going to say, we think more of these apply. And then how many now can they apply to executive privilege, and what will they be left with, right?
Well, what they're left with now, of course, is a big pause on this, right? So now, like, this is going to be handed over to the special master. They're not going to be able to move forward on this for a while, and the way that the wheels of justice move, very, very slowly.
Well, but they are saying that they want submissions of names by September 9th. They continue to say that they want it to move faster because, as Preet Bharara said in the book we just mentioned, your case weakens over time, right? So if you're the Justice Department, you want things to happen fast. But they did get an injunction. So they have these documents in their government offices. They are absolutely not supposed to touch them. They cannot, right? Again, another important question, do we trust them to not be going through it? Because we know from the Wiseman book, from the Mueller investigation, that because they knew that they were always under threat of being shut down by President Trump, because he threatened it all the time on the news, in his speeches on Twitter, right? So that made them do things faster while they still could. So you have to believe that the Justice Department has been furiously rifling through what they could until in case this injunction happened, which it did. So do we trust that they haven't already been through it, right? But now they have to stop, or they're supposed to. The ruling is surprisingly very protective around President Trump. For instance, it mentions like he needs this to be slow and methodical and get it right, because even if there is an indictment, that could irreparably damage him. Even if it's a wrong indictment, right? That the public perception of an indictment is such that it is like a stain that doesn't come off of you, and it could irreparably damage his ability to ... right? I mean, and for that guy, right, we know the sky's the limit. He could run again for president. He could fundraise on whatever. He could do all of these things. So the judge is protecting him in this instance. So all of this is surprising. And now we get to play the game of who's this going to be? Like,
who's the special master?
Right. Who is this special investigator going to be? Because both sides have to submit a list of names, and then we'll see basically if any of them overlap. They're not gonna.
Who are you going to find that's going to want to do this?
Rudy
Giuliani. He's going to be unbiased in one way or another.
Bob Barr.
Yeah, Bill Barr. Yeah. Right.
Oh, Bill Barr, yeah. No, Bob is brother.
Bill Burr, he would be good.
Bill Burr.
Bill Burr to do
Bill Burr. Yeah, get Bill Burr.
Mr. Bean. Oh, yes, Philip.
I'll look through some documents. I'll look through some classified documents. I'll be your special master. Yeah, I don't know.
So
I mean,
a lot of big things in here. I do feel like this is sort of appropriate justice happening slowly, right? I do think that it's appropriate to get a special master in this because there's no real reason not to be extra careful
Well, when
for
you have the
something
president-
that has such big consequences for everybody.
When you have President Biden approving this, like putting his name basically on the approval of his Justice Department to go after a former president, like how can you not have a third party that's impartial look at this?
Right.
I mean,
Well, and imagine if it was the other way around. Just like what would be going on? Like,
oh my God,
it would be
yeah.
a completely different situation
Well,
if it
but
was the
we
other way
don't
around.
have to imagine, right? Because we did see the Justice Department investigate classified documents in the personal hands of Hillary Clinton. And we did see what they did, right? So it's not exactly apples to apples, but they're breeds of apples, right?
Yeah, I mean, was there like a huge raid at what's her house? What was her house name in Chappaqua? I want to say Chappaquiddick, but that would be a Freudian slip. Like up in Chappaqua, like was
But
there
that
like
really
a
wasn't
massive
a president pushing it, though, is what I'm saying.
Right. I guess my point. Well, yeah, you're right about that. Like a president actually pushing it. So President Obama would have had to have pushed it in that situation.
But given we've talked about this, given how, she should have known better. She was doing something that she had personal possession of classified documents, and so did he, right? So we can't have two different standards for just people who are powerful and people who are not. And we absolutely can't have different standards for people who are Republican and people who are Democrats. So there is no reason to not sort of take this slow, be open about it, and give all semblances of neutrality and justice.
well,
She
we've
just
got
recently Hillary Clinton just recently tweeted that that it was found that she didn't have classified documents in those emails. They were just emails. So that it was like state owned because she was the Secretary of State. So it's like the government owned it and it needed to be archived. And that's what she kind of recently claimed in a tweet, was that she didn't have classified documents.
right.
I mean, I don't know.
Right, I'd say the same thing. I don't have any classified documents. What are you kidding? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and by the way, the server's gone anyway. We deleted all the emails, so what are you gonna do now? We don't have that server anymore. We got rid of the server.
I don't think that that's accurate. She was having classified conversations on. So, again, that's another rabbit hole. But again, I think it will be interesting because a couple of questions here still remain. Like, was he keeping this set of information for a reason? Was he doing it deliberately, right? The documents that were found and taken, do they prove something that he's been trying to prove to us, right? Are they privileged because they are his communication, right? Is it more than just, as one fellow YouTuber was saying, boxes of garbage? Or is it really things that he felt like the government would hide from the people, right? Or was it just as the government made it, said in his motion, sort of like sloppily collected, right? So many questions, and it does feel as though we will get an answer, although I'm not sure how much of it will be for us to be able to read.